right, folks, so here we go. We're working on solving one-step equations, but today we've got fractions. So really, not a problem, not any harder than solving a one-step without fractions. Just sometimes those fractions will get in the way for you. So this is your worksheet. Yours is bright pink. Mine is white so that you can see it on here. All right, so let's just look at, I left the first four because those generally aren't quite as scary, but let's look at a few of these. I'm going to start off with number 5. I think it shouldn't be so bad, but if you need help, stop, pause, do you get it, do you not, go forward, whatever you need to do to make this better for you. First thing I'm going to do is draw a line right down the middle just to make sure I can keep organized. Then I find my X, there it is, and I look right next to it, what's happening, okay? Do you need to make a do-undo chart? No. But I'm going to just so that we can walk through it. I'm subtracting 1/2. So how do you undo that? I add 1/2. Okay, so underneath, I'm just going to write plus 1/2 plus 1/2 to this side. Now, do you have to J-hook and make it into 5/4 and add the 1/2? You can. However, let's look at it for a second. You have 1 1/4 and you add 1/2. Can you just see right in your head that 1/2 is equivalent to 2/4? And because everything is the same sign, I really just end up with X equals 1 3/4. Again, if you want to J-hook and go through that whole thing, you can, but it's not necessary when the signs are all the same. All right, so let's look at number 6. All right, let's hop over to number 6. Now this one we've got to be a little bit more careful on. So I put my line down again and I say, okay, what's happening to that X? I'm subtracting 1 1/4. Okay? So in order to undo subtract, I have to add. Good. So I'm going to add 1 1/4 to both sides. You write it down to 1 to both sides. Okay, now this cancels out to 0, and the additive identity property says I don't have to write that 0, and so we're good. So now I've got -6 plus 1 1/4. So really, because they're opposite signs now, I'm technically going to do 6 minus 1 1/4. If you want to, you can J-hook that. So the 6 gives me 24/4. And then I'm going to subtract 5/4 from it. And when I do that, then I get 19/4. How many times does 4 go into there? 4 times with 3/4 left over. Okay, now let's look at that for a second. Could I have done 6 minus 1 and gotten 5? Yes. Then, from that 5, I would have to take away 1 more 1/4. So what's 1/4 less than 5? 4 3/4. So you don't always have to J-hook it. Sometimes you can just think through it. I really kind of like took this $6 and made change for it and got $5 and then 4/4 so that I could take this away, and that works just as well. And we didn't talk about it that much this year, but now that we're kind of moving more into fractions, we could. All right? Let's look at number 7. Number 7 is a beautiful little multiplication problem. And because it's a multiplication problem, I'm going to see if I can blow that up. How do you undo multiplication? You are right. You have to go through and divide. But what I know about this, first of all, I cannot have the 2 1/10. Because it's multiplication on this one, I do have to find an improper fraction. So 2 times 10 gives me 20. So 21/10 times n equals, over here, 1 times 6 plus 1, so 7/6. Oh my word, how do I undo times? I divide. Yes, but dividing by fractions, what happens? I'm going to kind of talk through it a different way. Do you see that the 21 is on top? So that's multiplication. How do you undo multiplication? You've got it. You divide. And the 10 is division. So if I had a do and undo chart over here, I've got multiplication and I've got division. So to undo that multiplication, I divide, which I did right here. Look at that goes to 1. Then, how do I undo the divide? I multiply, so I multiply by 10, and that goes to 1 as well. So I'm left really with 1n. Over here, I write the 10 on top. All right, so I've got 1n that equals 7 over 6 times 10 over 21. Holy moly, that's going to give me 70 over something. I don't know what that something is. It's a big number. So what can I do? I'm going to simplify right away. So 7 over 21. If I had that over here, I could simplify that to 1/3. So I'm going to do that. 1/3 and 10 over 6. What could I simplify that to? Well, 2 goes into both. So I get 5 over 3. 5 over 3. So 1 times 5 is 5. 3 times 3 is 9. I get 1n equals 5/9. Those multiplication ones I think are going to be the toughest that you will find. Let's see what else we've got on here. Number 8 is similar. I see that I've got a multiplication in there. So I'm going to put my line down, and because it's multiplication, I can't leave this 9 1/3 that way. So I've got to J-hook that. 9 times 3 is 27 plus 1. 28 over 3 equals 5/3 n. Okay, so I look at this. If I did a do and undo, it's multiplying by 5, and it's dividing by 3. So how do I undo that? Well, I'm going to undo the multiply by 5, I've got to divide by 5. So I'm going to put that over here. And to undo the divided by 3, I'm going to multiply by 3. So I put that up here. All right, now I look at it. Look at this. 5 over 5 goes to 1. 3 over 3 goes to 1, so I'm left with 1n over here. Do I have to write the 1? No, but I can. Then I look over to the left side. Is it okay that the n's on the right side? Yeah. Okay, then I look back to the left after I got distracted and say, ooh, 3 and 3. Simplify those out. So I've got 1 and 1. I'm left with 28 over 5. Can I leave that? No. So I'm going to go over to here, and I get n equals, 5 goes into there 5 times, with how many left over? 3/5. Good job. Again, if you're struggling with that piece of how do I make a mixed and improper fraction into mixed, go back into the Unit 2 fraction help, and there's several videos there that can help you with that. Okay? Let's do one last problem because number 10 looks a little scary, but honestly it's not bad if you just work through the fraction piece. So let's move this up. There we go, 10. Always draw my line down first. I see I've got 2 and 5/12 equals -3 1/4 plus k. Well, how do I undo this? Do you see how there's a minus sign in front of the 3 and 1/4? And you might say, that's a negative, right? Well, what undoes a negative? Positive. So I'm going to add 3 and 1/4 to both sides. The beauty of adding 3 and 1/4 is this. This crosses out to give me 0, so I can drop down my k. Then over here, my guitar just dropped because my kid just dropped it. There we go. So I'm going to keep teaching.
Mommy,
2 plus 3.
itself.
It fell by itself. I know, honey. All right, so just so you know, my life is real. Okay, so everything is the same size, or the same sign, which is great. So I take 2 plus 3 gives me 5. 5/12 plus 1/4. Can I do that? I can't. Hold on just a second. Okay, so I've got 5/12 plus 1/4. I can write that over here. 5/12 plus 1/4. Can I just add right across the top? No, Mrs. Beaver, you need common denominators. Okay, so I'm going to write those in. 5/12. Hey, that stays the same. This I did times 3 times 3. So I get 8/12. So 5 and 8/12, but this, what goes into both 8 and 12? You got it. 4. So I get 5 and 2/3 done. Ah, isn't this just so fun? Yes. Hopefully by now the fractions are getting easier for you, and we will conquer it. hopefully today, and if not today, someday soon.